Hey everyone and welcome back to a new video. So Warhammer Skulls 2023 has come and gone and we've got a real mix of gaming news, some quite exciting and some perhaps less so. However, one of the surprising highlights of the show, and I think I can say it was a nice surprise for many, was that Age of Sigmar is getting its first real-time strategy game, Realms of Ruin. And in this video I wanted to dive into what we found out from the announcement, what's been confirmed, and share my own thoughts and expectations for the game. If that piques your interest, then let's jump right in. Now firstly, we know the game is coming courtesy of Frontier Developments, the team behind Elite Dangerous, and it's set to come out on PC, PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, with crossplay enabled across all of them. I'm sure Elite Dangerous fans are raising their eyebrows slightly at that one, given Frontier just dropped crossplay from Elite, but hey, we'll overlook that for the moment. The game will also feature 4 factions. We know the Stormcast Eternals and Auric Crawlboys will make up 2 of those, and as poster factions for the Order and Destruction Alliances respectively in AOS, I think we can probably expect that a Chaos and Death faction will each make up one of the other 2. We'll talk more about that later though. The setting is the Realm of Gur, a familiar one for Age of Sigmar fans lately, and the campaign, written by Games Workshop veteran Gav Thorpe, will seemingly see the 4 factions battle it out for control of Gur and, more specifically, the Fortress of Harcanibus, which is a new location if I'm not mistaken. In addition to the campaign, we'll also be getting cross-platform multiplayer, and gamers can battle it out in 1v2 and 2v2 games, which is nice to see. Finally, while the open beta is not yet live, you can register for it over on the game's website, but it's not clear when invites will go out. I suspect it will be a few months yet. And as you would expect, we have no confirmed release date as of the time of this video. So those are the key points, but what else can we glean from the announcement trailer? Well, let's talk about gameplay first. We're not getting the first full gameplay trailer until June, but that at least tells us that the gameplay side of Realms of Ruin is pretty well developed, hence why the open beta is coming soon. However, we got a brief glimpse of gameplay in the announcement, and to my mind, the game feels very much like an Age of Sigmar version of Dawn of War 2. We know the game isn't about sprawling armies like in Total War, and that you unlock more units as you move through the campaign. Also, looking at the map, it seems objective control is the key mechanic. There are several on this map we can see, and at the top there seems to be some sort of morale bar that presumably ticks down more quickly as you lose more objectives to the enemy. If that's right, then it's a cool mechanic, because objective control is what Warhammer is often about, and it means the game will be a great springboard to those who want to jump into the tabletop game itself. Looking at the rest of the icons, it seems that each player has a realm gate icon too, which might be where units spawn, and it makes me wonder if there's a bit of a Leagues of Legends vibe where you can win by closing the enemy's realm gate. That would be a pretty cool mechanic too, and one that links with the specific lore of AOS at the same time. And speaking of the tabletop, it seems we're getting quite an extensive roster of units in the game. The Realms of Ruin page on Steam has a lot more photos than the Warhammer community article, and in them we can see Liberators, Evocators, Stormdrake Guard, Knight Vexilor and Annihilators, and that's just on the Stormcast side. We get a similar mix of units in the Crawlboys faction, but interestingly they've chosen to go distinctly for that sub-faction. Traditional Aurics from the wider Auric Warclans faction don't seem to appear, and that might be because of the swampy setting, or simply because GW wants the look and feel to match the current poster faction of Age of Sigmar right now. But what about other factions? Well, as I said earlier, given there's 4 factions in this game and 4 Grand Alliances in AOS, it's probably safe to expect we'll get 1 from each, which leaves the Chaos and Death factions to be announced. Personally, for the Death faction, I'd like to see Flesh Eater Courts, since they probably would bring some very different mechanics to the game, and that's what players want after all. However, they could use Nighthaunt just because they tend to appear in more stuff, but given its Gur, I think Flesh Eaters could be a fun and fitting one. On the Chaos side, I think it's more likely to be Blades of Khorne or Maggotkin of Nurgle, since they probably fit the setting more than Slaanesh or Tzeentch, but at the end of the day, Chaos is Chaos, and whatever the allegiance, as long as they do what they normally do, I'll be happy. Of course, depending on how the game is supported, we could see other units join later on and possibly even new factions, but that's probably getting a bit far ahead of myself. We'll need to see how the game works and how well it's received to judge whether this is the start of a wider series or simply a one-off game. Now, before I share my own thoughts and expectations in general, I should say that we don't know what the recommended PC specs are for this game. Bearing in mind it's using the latest gen consoles, I'd probably say that if you can run Total War Warhammer right now, you'll probably be fine, but one to think about when we get more info. But what are my first impressions? Well, I think it's really exciting to see Age of Sigmar getting this sort of treatment. In Warhammer in general, it certainly feels like 40k is the more popular game, and I think that precipitates into what console and PC games we tend to get. They're largely 40k ones. However, that might be shifting now, and at the end of the day, Age of Sigmar has a really cool universe, and as the developers spoke to, games like this bring that universe to life for more players. Secondly, I think this is going to be a big one for Frontier developments, and they'll want to prove a lot to players and fans. They know Warhammer is popular and other developers have made and are making some exciting games, and they'll want theirs to stand out in the crowd as much as anyone else. And thirdly, I think, at least from the very brief glimpses of gameplay we saw, this could be a really good game for existing and new players alike. Sure, I'd love to see a new Total War Age of Sigmar one day where you command legions of Stormcast, and I'm sure we'll get that eventually. However, and jumping back to my second point, I think games like this, which bring the action and story in a little bit more, are going to really help to bring people into the AOS universe in a more accessible way, and that's going to build the foundations for those future games. But I certainly wouldn't say that this one lacks ambition. It's clearly had a lot of work put into it so far. I think the models in game look fantastic, and I think the gameplay trailer is going to excite a lot of people, just as Space Marine 2 is doing so for Warhammer 40k fans. So that's just a brief look at Realms of Ruin, the new RTS coming to the realms of Age of Sigmar. I'm really excited to see the gameplay trailer in June, and I think it's coming at a great time in the hobby, where we're getting more content, new editions of the core games, and more ways to play about with Warhammer. But what do you think? Are you excited about what you saw? Have you already signed up for the open beta? I'll put a link in the description. And if you're not actively into Age of Sigmar, is it getting you interested in the setting? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. But as always, a big thank you for watching today. If you enjoyed the video, please do click the like button and subscribe for more Warhammer videos, and I hope you'll join me for my next one. Until then though, take care.